Be'ez Hashem Parshas Nitzavim Vayelech Tavshin Pei Gimel Erev Rosh Hashanah. It's always important to review how to practice Bitochen before Rosh Hashanah and on Rosh Hashanah. And every year a person is supposed to be able to be Machadish, to innovate. It means something new, a new concept, something that he didn't have beforehand, how to do it every year. And that's because we're Machadish the Malucha. Eved is doing he's serving the Rebbeinu Shalom with a new Mahalach, and that's in the mind. So there's a fascinating shtickle from the Reb Shlomo Kluger in Chochmas HaTorah. Reb Shlomo Kluger, 180 years ago, Berach, Reb Shlomo Kluger wrote in Torah as much as maybe 20 people were able to wrote as Svarim without Me'ala Derech HaTeva. Parshas Bahar is the famous posuk that speaks about Shemitah and Yovel, that people are supposed to keep Shemitah, Klal Yisrael, and what happens? You're not going to have what to eat. And if people are going to question if we're not going to plow, then we're not going to have what to eat. So what's the plan? And then the pasuk says, "Don't worry, v'tzivisi as berchosi l'shlosh hashanim." Hashem promises there'll be a nest, and the crop, the fruit that's going to grow in the 6th year, is going to be enough for 3 years, for 6, 7, and 8. So he asked the question, "L'choyre einoi moving." It's not understood. Eich yeh choyte niskar. That means, how could it be someone that's doing a sin, aveira, should gain? That means he should be better off. Someone that didn't ask the question, he wasn't mahar, he's good. Shemitah, Yovel, what's going to be? Hashem's going to, I don't know, it's good. Then it doesn't say he's going to get the bracha. But if he asked the question, he says, "But well, 1 minute. If I'm going to be Mekayim mitzvah Shemitah, then I'm not going to know what to eat." Oh, he gets a bracha shleish hashanim. It's the famous Noam Elimelech or Reb Zisha about this question. But let's hear how he explains it. Reb Shlomo Kluger. It definitely doesn't contradict. It just complements each other, the two shtiklach. So he says like this in the Sefer Chochmas HaTorah, and it really helps us towards the previous year that we learned. He says, "Hina yesh beis minei nisim." So 2 types of nisim. Yesh nes nigla, v'yesh nes nister. Like we spoke, hidden nest, and then there's a nest that's, everybody could see this was a real nest. It was impossible, and Hashem made a nest. Now you need more schusim, so a person should be zoicha to a nest nigla. And he quotes a Zohar HaKodesh that the reason why Hashem usually runs the world with hidden nisim is because we're not worthy. We're not ro'oi and kedai to have a nes nigla. Now what happens if a person is not ro'oi and Hashem has to bring a nes, has to be noig with a nes towards this person? We learned menakaloi mischi Yosef. That's what we learned the previous week. That what happens is that you have to, he loses part of his chusim. So he says, but if a person is zoiche to a nes nister, then we don't need to be menachem le'mischu Yosef. It's not needed. That means you don't lose from yischar, even though you had the same nes, you had the same Yeshua. But it's not a problem. Now we have many Mamor Chazal about nisim that were hidden. It says that if people are going to, that means if people keep mitzvahs, you eat a little bit, but you're satisfied. You don't need to eat a lot. So in the end of the game, you have everything that you need. Or people take a little bit of tvuah, and there's a bracha, and it's all of a sudden there's many ways of a nes nister that Rebbeinu Shem constantly could and does give for the bria. But if, here comes the chiddush from Reb Shlomo Kluger, v'tzivisi as berchosi l'shlosh hashanim, which means that Hashem is going to make alpines that the tavua from the 6th year is going to be enough for 3 years, that's called a nes nigla. That's called an open nes, a revealed nes. You could see it. So the pshat of the pasuk is, whoever just believes in the Rebbeinu Shalom's simple, if Hashem says to keep Shemitah, it'll be good. I don't have any questions. Then you're going to have a nes nista. It'll be good. It'll be regular fruit. I don't know how. It's just going to figure itself out. It's going to work out. If a person is going to ask and question it, what's going to be here, then he's not on the darga to get a nes nista. So then he gets a nes nigla.
So how can you call it a bracha?
It's a bracha, but it still deducts from mischusim. It's like a bracha she'ena shleima, like that idea. Now it definitely works out with what the Noam Elimelech says, that if he doesn't mention the menachal Mishcha Yosef part, there it only says if a person didn't ask, then for sure he's going to have everything that he needs. But if a person questions the Rebbeinu Shalom, then we have to figure it out how to help him, because he broke the tzinoros of shefa. That's what it says there. But here, he's more saying it like with a hagdorah, that if you don't question it, maybe you're going to have the same apple, but you're just going to be satisfied, and it's going to work out. Someone once told me that there was a person that davened by the Rimnitzer. He said that he said, that this is the caver in America. Everybody goes for Nisim, for Sgulas, for Mosim. So he says that he said he's making chasana, and he says he needs $50,000. He has no way how to marry off his child. So he tells me the story. He says, and then as he's like bending down on the caver, someone taps him on the shoulder and says, "Can I help you?" He says, "Yeah, I'm marrying off a child." He says, "How much do you need?" $50,000. He says, "No problem." Writes him a check of $50,000. And the guy that tells me the story says, "Yeah, it wasn't exactly like that. It was more that, I don't know, it's 2 years later, I married off my child, I don't have any choivis." So basically that's what happened, even though nobody tapped me on the shoulder. So you could have a nes nigla, but it could just work out. I don't know how, but it just worked out. It's beautiful explanation in the pasuk, but it's very big yisoidus in bitochen. So what is the yisoidus that we're learning now? Number one, that a nes nister, a hidden nes, is a higher madrega. On the first level of it just mathematically is more worth it, because you're not, Hashem doesn't have to deduct from your schusim, and nes nigli do. So of course, if a person's by the counter and he's saying, "Can I please have a nes?" So they ask him, "Nister or nigla, please, would you?" He says, "Give me a nister, please." Why? Because he says, "I don't have to pay for it." So how do I have to pay? He says, "You have to pay this for free." So of course, a nes nister is more worth it, but it's not for free. That we're going to learn is just it's a better mahalach. Now, here comes the catch. When is taka a person zoicha to nes nister? This is where Shlomo Klug is helping us out. He's saying, I'll explain it to you. If you don't ask any questions, then it's Masuda. If you start asking questions, then you're opening up like a can of worms. And then things get more complicated, and then you could only get a nes nigla. Let's explain that. It's a new concept for the mind. It works like this. When a person, let's say a person is learning Gemara, and he says, "I have a bomb question here." He stops everything that he's doing. There's a question. He looks this safer, he looks that safer. He writes down the question. He asks the Talmud Chacham, says, "You know something? It's a really good question. Yeah, I'm serious. It's a good question." Works and works and works. And he thinks he has an answer. He's still in the middle of building it. He's like trying to refine the answer. Till he works it out. He thinks he could explain already the answer. Shine. And he writes down this whole shtickle Torah question, a moshel to the question, an answer, and he has a raya from somewhere else to the question, and he has a shir, sweating away, explaining the shir. So you get it. Then he goes to this big ilui, and he wants to present his shtickle Torah, and he comes to me and says, "So we're not in the Gemara." And he says, "Yeah." So I was thinking to ask. Now, in less than 10 seconds. He says, but it's different, right? He said the question, the answer, and he didn't even have to talk. Many Talmidei Chachamim had this Chalishas Hadas. It means they felt so, they worked so hard till they figured out the question, till they figured out the answer, they wrote it down. And now there's this Ilui that just in one word, it's Poshet. Who's in a bigger Madrega? In the mind, it's a stronger mind, it's a deeper, he's brilliant. The question, the answer, everything is in a second. A person, the Rebbeinu Shem sends Shefa to the world. There's many ways how to do it. Everything is done, everything is Mesuda, no noise, no changing the bri, it's just done. If you act that way, Hashem acts that way. It's like a type of Mida Keneged Mida. That means the Rebbeinu Shem said Shemitah, it's Shemitah. Since Dokin Kasha, darf ich machen gegröße Teretz. Interesting way of explaining it. We'll get to a better way of explaining it soon, but first, you are already better answer. But you didn't even have, you said, Segut. I don't know how, but the Rebbeinu Shem said, I could continue on my Seder Hayoim like nothing ever happened because the Rebbeinu Shem is a Toiv U'Meitiv, and the Zechir is going to be good. It's not important for me to go through the process and figure out, but 1 second, but what's going to be if. Okay, so the Rebbeinu Shem just takes care of it. He doesn't know how. It's just Masuda. But if a person is running this whole dialogue with the Rebbeinu Shalom, he said, I believe, but 1 second. 1 second, I did this mitzvah, and he has this whole graph to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So then the answer comes, he also again answered, but if you make such a bomba kasha, so you have to have such a bomba teretz. So you're on a low madrega. You are on a low madrega. Let's explain that in another, the same explanation, but now let's get to the bottom of it, the source of it. Why this was more like how to present it. What's the Yesoid Advorim? The Yesoid is that why be'emes does the Ilui, the genius, why doesn't he have to sit and explain? And many times a genius is not appropriate to be a magachir because he can't explain anything because everything he understood. The answer is that when, let's say, knowledge, chokhmah, shefa, any type of abundance, when it comes from the source, it's higher than the darga of words. It's elevated to the sense that you can't. It's not tangible. You can't break it down. It's just the whole thing at once. Then, as it goes from world to world, that's what's called me'olam la'olam, me'ila la'olam, it goes down. So you break it down. You open up the topic, and you could explain it. You could bring it down to words. If you have a child that can't understand words, so you could play it out. You could build from blocks. So it could get into their mind. So there's many dargas of explaining, and it depends how brilliant the person is, how much you have to break it down. So the Eloi, everything is in a second. He just has it. What should he do?
Witness at the highest level of Talmud is when he knows what his Rebbe is thinking when the Rebbe is not speaking.
He's so connected to the Rebbe's Mahalach. He just has it. He knows what the Rebbe is thinking before the Rebbe said it, without. Once a person it has a slower processing marech inside the mind, they need to go through the steps. They go through the steps. The same concept is when the Rebbeinu Shem sends shefa to a person. That means when you're talking about shefa, it could be. It could be money, it could be food, it could be soiva, it could be anything. What happens? The Rebbeinu Shem could have to bring it that if you need 1 second, you need for 2 years. Let me make that 1 second. How many apples do you need? It's not going to work if you're not going to have enough. It's like when someone orders for a simcha. He says, I have about 50 couples coming. Give me 45 portions. I believe 5 people are not going to show. 5 couples are not going to show up. He says, if you have 50... I run simchas every night. Okay, this is what I do. 65 portions, please. He says, but 1 second, every portion, I don't have the money for it. He says, you need 65 portions. You got me? You need that many drinks. This is how much drinks you need. You can't cut corners. I don't know. This is how it goes. This yisoid is if you're working with, if you have to bring every shefa into the misgeret of this world, you need that you're going to need for 3 years, okay? Look at me. You're going to need for 3 years. You know how many lemons you're going to need? Let's say, I don't have any shortcuts for you. You need that many lemons. He said, where am I going to put that many lemons? It's going to cost you storage plus tax. This is it. This is the yesod of the world when you have to go through the klalim, the rules. This is our rules. And it's in all aspects. When a person wants to order a big hall and he has to pay for security, you have to pay for insurance, there's a fee. This world works like that. But then, if a person is in a different madrege, a person is a different madrege. What's planning is a different madrege. He's in a madrege that he doesn't have to put it in his mind into klolim, into yesoidus, into such zachen. He doesn't need to. He doesn't have any tzoirich. When he asks the question in his mind, how's the Rebbeinu Shem going to help me? What's his answer? It doesn't make a difference. Next, the Rebbeinu Shem is going to help. I don't need to put it into a image, into a picture, into a mahalach. There's no tzoirich for it.
Sounds like davar bracha and davar sumim minayim.
Yeah, this is the yesod. And Taka the Moranayim, Parshat Eschanon, explains it exactly like you said. The Moranayim, Parshat Eschanon says, why shouldn't you be counting your money or your tvua? And it says in the Gemara, you're going to lose the bracha, you're going to lose the blessing if you're going to count it. The answer is because if you know the numbers, it means you brought it down. Now your mind, the chaval is in your mind. You're already checking your bank. You're refreshing to see if it's not the Madam Halach is. To design the Rebbeinu Shem is to give bracha higher than my mind. So then the Rebbeinu Shem can give you a nice nister, and it's done. Many times, a good friend, a real good friend, that knows that this couple has to go away for Pesach. They went through for Pesach. Really, they need to go away. But they don't have the money. They're also never going to be maskim to go away for Pesach because they're going to ask. So, you call them a week before and whatever, and he says, listen, Met Hashem, we took care of it, and we got you this in this place so you could a little bit ear out after what you went through. He says, well, 1 second, how much did it cost? Who paid for it? No, it's done. It's Masuda. Oh, no, it didn't. It's done. There's no details. It's not Shnegeya. It's one dogma. It's much higher than that dogma. But the concept is that Rebbeinu Shloim could help you with a mahalach of Neis Nigla. That means we have to go through the whole process. And it could be Neis Nista that nobody even knows what happened. Many times there's a fight. Okay? And the person doesn't know what to do, and he doesn't know what happened. It was just Masuda. It got Masuda. There's no. Now people, let's go right. People don't want sometimes a nice nista. He said, Rebbeinu Shloim, could I have money? I want money. He said, why do you need money? What do you mean I have a family and I have to have? Rebbeinu Shloim says, but I can take care of it. I can make that you shouldn't have to pay for doctors. By not going to the doctor, by insurance, there's many different ways. But it could just be done. And a person has to chap that he wants to have that mahalach. He would rather want to have that mahalach of Neis Nister, and it's much better for him. Let's now go back. One of the reasons why it's much better for him. Now let's go weiter. It's because if a person has a Neis Nister, then it's not Menachem Mischu Yosef. Why is that? What's the reason for that? The reason for that is because the Beis Halevi explains in the contrast of the Beis Halevi, the Beis Halevi explains. 1 second. 1 second, okay. The Beis Halevi explains like this. The reason the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't want to make a Neis Nigla is because a Neis Nigla takes away the bechira of people. And the Rebbeinu Shalom wants you to work it out. He wants you to figure it out. He wants you to... That's the now, if a person is Zeichet Neis Nista, then what happens is, he didn't even lose his bechira. He doesn't even chop what happened. He knows it's the Rebbeinu Shalom, but nothing out of the ordinary happened. Everything is running. Baruch Hashem. Smooth sailing in many areas. It's hidden so it doesn't have to take away from him. Now, so we mentioned it doesn't have to go in the Gidrei Hasman. It could be taken care of without quantity, or it's just taken care of, and a hidden mahalach it's taken care of. It doesn't take away the bchir of a person. It doesn't deduct from his schusim, and it's a much better mahalach. That's the Rebbe Shem wants the world to run with that mahalach. No drama. I mean, Baruch Hashem, he doesn't even know what happened. There was almost an accident, but nothing happened. He didn't even chat. This is the Yisod that when the Rabbi Akiva said in Masechtas Brochos that he woke up in the morning, the chicken, the candle. He chapped afterwards what could have happened, but Lamaisa nothing happened. Now let's continue. How are we zoicha to that? Shlomo Kluger says, I'll explain to you how you zoicha to that. A person many times only thinks and is machazing himself in bitochen once a situation is already developed. Something happened. Okay, I have bitochen, it's going to be good. But when everything is the way it's supposed to, they're not living and their heart is not pounding. Baruch Hashem. So now they're not yet zoiche to bring out by their mind and heart this whole yisoid of bitochen. If a person is magdim refuah lamaka with a new explanation of being magdim refuah lamaka, it means he starts thinking and living with the Rebbeinu Shalom without any situation happening. So he's bringing to himself, he's being mamshech upon himself that you're having a bitochen when the matzav is nista. We're going to take care of it like that, without playing it out. Someone told me that when he was a young man, he opened up a business, and he went to take a bracha from Rabu Shafreint, famous big mashpia. This I didn't see it. This the person told me. So he says, Rabu Shafrein told him, let me tell you something. You want to have a bracha of hatzlacha? Talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom every day, every minute. If you're not going to talk to him, he's going to talk to you. He says, it's not pleasant. If he has to talk to you, it's not pleasant. He has hospitals for that. He gave him like a whole list. He says, talk to him. The concept behind this word is that a person should get the message that you should stay connected. That means you should be tuned in just because you chap that I'm alive. You chap it beforehand.
It's like when you said with the Chazanish, with the Chakira of sometimes you see someone
the boy
go down,
Yeah, that beautiful story. We have to repeat that story. So why do you see sometimes a bocha that when Yeshiva he was the best boy, and then when he gets married, Shvach, so the Chazanish asked this question to his chavrusa, and that young man had just got married, so he was sure the Chazanish meant him. So he was like walking on Bnei Brak all, and his friends met him. They said, "You're going the wrong way. You live the other way." He woke up. He said, "Okay." They said, "What happened?" He said, "The Chazanish asked me why a boy, after he gets married, sometimes has a big yerida. He falls from his darga, and I felt he meant me, and I can't. What did I do? What did I do so wrong?" So he says, "Who says the Chazanish meant you? Let's go back to the Chazanish. Let's ask him what he meant." They went back. They entered the room and they told the Chazanish, "You meant me. What did I do?" He says, "No, I didn't mean you. I just wanted to share with you a idea." He says, "What?" He says, "Let me explain to you. Depends on what does it mean a good boy." He said, "A good bocha," and he became a shvach and young man. He says, "What does it mean a good bocha?" So they didn't know what to say. So he says, if a good bocha is just learning whatever, and then he gets married and he has different challenges, he has no idea how to handle those challenges. He says, "I'll explain to you what is a good bocha." if he needs to buy a pair of shoes, so what he does is he asks the Rebbeinu Shalom, help me buy shoes. Good shoes, comfortable shoes, affordable shoes, just suit me. And then help me find the right store. And it shouldn't take too long, and it should be pleasant. And as every step of the game, he's like talking to the Rebbeinu Shalom, every step of the game, help me. Till he reaches the store, and in the store, help me, I should make the right decision. If this is it, should be mine. If not, something should happen. He said, that's called a good bocha. And then the Chazon Ish concluded, he said, if a person does it with anything, then it doesn't make a difference what challenges he has later on in life. Because he knows he's in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom. His life is in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom. His health, his children, his parnasa, his apartment, all the bank. So everything, he learned how to do it. He had experience, he did exercise. But if a person never spoke to the Rebbeinu Shalom, he knew how to learn. Now you set him up with bills, you set him up with issues, he doesn't know how to do it. So he falls because he never learned how to talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom constant. A person gets up in the morning, they have to be gal patuach. How do they it's constantly open line talking. It's hard. People want to leave go. Okay, I did it, I davened. They put it away in the shelf, and I say, okay, now let me open my phone. Okay, what's going on in life? Let me now start running my life. It's chaval. It's such a chaval. A person is like, you finish davening, without anything happening. Now, a person doesn't want to feel that his life is in danger the whole time. He doesn't want to feel like that. He wants to leave go of that. But that's the mistake. That's the mistake. Don't leave go. A person is now in the matziv. His life is in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom, and he reminds himself when he goes in the street. But it's good. I'm in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom. This is my matziv. I'm happy to live and remind myself, and my machshava should constantly be right and not be masiyach das, not totally disregard the emes halcha machshava. Now to Rosh Hashanah, this is very, very important. Pshat is azoy. The Rebbeinu Shalom knows that the best matana for a person is if a person is living without a reason. He's reminding himself that he's in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's good. Him and his family. He has a yirah and he has a simcha. The Rebbeinu Shalom is going to help him. He's holding on tight. But he's not going into details. What's going to be with this and with that. That's only little reminders to the Yesoid. To the Yesoid. It means a person that has to do a shidduch. A person that needs a bocher. The whole parsha is bocher in yeshiva. A person that his business is now, they're going to give him an answer after Yom Kippur, and he was happy. Because something I could daven for it. But the Yesoid Advarim is not that a person should invest himself in the detail. It's good you should remember, but that's supposed to serve as a reminder, something? It's a big picture that everything, I can't do anything. In a second, the person could lose anything. And a person should live like that. Instead of it should make him under pressure, it should turn on the person to have a certain yirah. You know what it means? I don't have the liberty just to do whatever I want, to speak whatever I want. It doesn't make sense. Because Lamaisa, I'm in a certain matziv now. I'm in this matziv and I can't leave go. You could see sometimes people that are tense, people that are going through a matziv, they could smile, they could be with you, but you could see 50%. The other 50%, this guy, I'm not going to ask him, I'm not going to go into his private zachen. But 50% is somewhere else right now. The Ramban says, but a boy, that's what a person should be always. A person should be geschmack. A person should be able to talk to other people, and while he's talking to other people, there's certain parts of his brain that's automatically thinking about the Rebbeinu Shalom. So people are going to say it's a very high madrega. First of all, true. Second of all, every person, something that's very, very important for them, it's memela like that. That means that they just don't forget. even though they're shoilet on themselves, and they could even be very easygoing, but they have the tatakara in the subconscious is there, strong. Subconscious is alive. Why? Because it's something that's very powerful and it's very yesodistic in their life. So they live with that. Rebbe Hashem wants a person to live with that subconscious. Now it takes a lot of exercise. A person should remind themselves, I need to have siyata d'shmaya in the food that I'm eating, not to choke on it. As it says in Zohar Kodesh, to daven. I need to have siyata d'shmaya that the food that I'm preparing should work out. The way I'm talking to people, and I'll call tzaddik, but he should train himself that it should that he shouldn't feel that it doesn't make sense to constantly be busy with it. No, he enjoys the fact to live in the truth. I need to have the Shmaya. Very good.
Gaval. Can appreciate that he's getting the siyata.
Sure, he's realizing it. Now, what is the siyata Shmaya that he's getting? It's called Neis Nista. That's what it's called. It means he's going into a matziv that he doesn't need reminders. Now, this is mitzias that a person goes through matzovim in life for many different reasons. Various sibas could be. But there's so many zachen and situations in life that a person could just not have to go through. Why? Because he went through it. There's no point in the yisurim. There's a point in the achanoah that a person should constantly think that he needs siyata d'shmaya, they should be able to talk, and needs a gewalt achanoah. It needs a lot of achanoah. People don't want to now. Okay, I know. You tell a kid to bench. I know. Don't forget. I know. He doesn't want to constantly be like, I have to remind myself. I have to tell myself. I have to fix myself. People don't want to be busy with it. Well, you cannot be busy with it, because if you're not busy with it deliberately, if you don't decide to be busy with it, you don't want Hashem to remind you that you have to daven for it. Don't find yourself making big yeshuas, huge yeshuas. I'm in Hashem's hands. There's a moediga matona from Rosh Hashanah in the beginning of the year. It's the most important that a person should live under that vekas. It's the best matzav to be in. That means he just remembers, especially the beginning of the year.
You can set up a year of Nisim Nistarim.
You could that's the Yesod. You could set up a year of Nisim Nistarim by being in the right matzav, by being understanding what's happening. I don't know. Which means I'm not coming with my simtoim. I'm not coming because I'm so good. I'm coming. I'm a child. Have rachmanasami. If I'm not worthy even of being called a ben right now, but the etzem fact that I'm relying on it, is just because I'm relying. There's a say that if you rely, the Rebbe Hashem would not leave go of you. And the Rebbe Hashem wants a nisim nistam to say that, because that's what it means. The Rebbe Hashem is not menakem eschiyosef. He wants us to live that type of life. He's trying to teach us to live that type of life. There's many Lashonis even in Shulchan Aruch, one in the Sforim, of how a person is supposed to have bitochen on Rosh Hashanah. Be sure that the Rebbe Hashem is going to take care of them and give them a good year. And that's why we eat a Suda after davening, to show that we're positive that the Rebbe Hashem definitely having bitochen on Rosh Hashanah is not the second half. Let's understand. It's not like, okay, first half of the day, let's be serious, like all tensed up, and then you finish davening. Okay, now it's time. Chatzi lachem. Now it's true that certain matzavim bring that means the beginning of the day, it's be'em as a dina kashya, there's shoifer, there's, and then we be'em sing the Rebbeinu Shalom, we believe, and we be'em we make a suda, but the first half is the same bitochen. That means that the essence of bitochen is that he's relying. There's no point in the being tense on Rosh Hashanah. There's a point of chaping the metzias. That's it. Just to get it. Now, it's not possible for a person to do this on Rosh Hashanah if a person doesn't review it before Rosh Hashanah, because the mindset of a person works that the train of thought that it goes that if you review hundreds of times or whatever, and with emotion, then slowly it goes in. But if a person didn't think with such a mahalach beforehand, then he doesn't be'emes have it. He doesn't be'emes, not koine, doesn't acquire this, that it's part of him. Training and preparing yourself to Rosh Hashanah is by the mundane tasks of a person's daily life, simple, the regular routine, but by thinking, I'm in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Maybe should help me to work out. It brings you to live so gesund, and it helps you that's how you're supposed to live Rosh Hashanah. That's it. It's just a reminder that it wasn't only helping, begging the Rebbeinu Shalom to remember that telephone number. It was begging the Rebbeinu Shalom for life. It's like a reminder. But at the beginning of the year, Hashem is helping you how to live like that. This is a very, very big yesod how a person should. Children that ask, sometimes you get to find a person that's tense and a person that's just coping mechanisms of just like leaving go and saying, bei Chassidim hat man nicht gehalten, all kinds of saying, that's good. A person is calm. Why is he calm? Because it's in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Rachman Stifker Rebbe that was just nifta, he told me that the day he was supposed to, he had one kind of yana machla, and it wasn't simple. He had to have a complicated nituach operation, and that morning, the morning of the operation, he was sitting with the doctor, and he was telling him his history. He was saying that when he was 13 years old, 12 and a half, he was sick. He almost didn't make it. They actually, the story was, it was in Chodesh Iyar. He was born in Elul. His bar mitzvah was Dalad Elul. In 3 months beforehand, he got so sick that the doctor came in. It's a fascinating story. And in those days in Yerushalayim, they were trying to keep his body warm. He shouldn't totally lose the body heat, because he was losing it. And he was already in a matzav of goysis. He was already not. So the doctor says there's no point. So he just came into the room and he took it and he left. He said that. And the person that was watching him was so upset. How could he do such a thing? He's still alive. And he had like alcohol he had with him, and he started rubbing it on his chest. He tried to save him, rubbing and it saved him. It started wakening up his stomach. It wasn't working, and that slowly opened up his eyes. It was mamash a nes. That's when they gave him his name Chai Yitzchak. But akaponim, they gave him a name Chaim, and they figured out that they couldn't give Chaim, so they said, call him Chai. Now, the doctor was fascinated. He was saying, how could a person have such ruika? He's so smart. On his face, telling him a story. You know which matzav you are, and he lived like that. I'm in the Rosh's hands. Also, when his son was nifta, he had his bechor, his oldest son. They told him Matzah Shabbos. His son lived in Yerushalayim, and he was in America. And it was from 1 second to the next. He had a chosh of a son. Someone was 50 years old, and he heard the news. Someone was nifta, just like that. That was his first reaction. He says, no. We're in the Rebbeinu Shem's hands. So that's what it means. Now, when a person could realize that calm, it's an art. That's bitachon. The bitachon is the formula of living that machshava, that everything could change in a split second to anyway. But there's no reason why you're tense about it. It's be'emes an art. It's gewaldig. Bitachon is the shilov between the two. That, and this is the Matthias. This is the Yesod. The Rebbeinu wants that before Rosh Hashanah we should get used to this emes, and we should live in this emes. And Rosh Hashanah, and it's the best thing for us, not only to always, but especially Rosh Hashanah, because that's how you zoichet a good year, by living such a concept, such a type of life.